I want to turn to the session 3, and we have Shadul Akbara, and he is the Head of Environment and Economy Integration Division at the OECD Environment Directorate, and our Shadul will moderate the session. Shadul, the floor is yours.
Thanks very much, Aya, and good morning to all of you. So we're starting day 2 today, and the title for day 2 is All Hands on Deck, Action Towards Policy Coherence and Filling the Financing Gap on Marine Plastic Pollution. So this session is focusing on implementing challenges and tackling marine plastic pollution at the local level and moving towards coherent policy solutions. And we'll be discussing challenges at the local level on waste and plastic management, and drawing on the various marine plastic pollution strategies and action plans that have been developed in many regions. And we are very pleased to have with us 4 different local actors from Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia, and Laos. They will be sharing with us their experiences on both what has worked and what are the persistent challenges in implementing national policies at the local level, either when dealing with existing waste management systems or making new initiatives work to prevent plastic leakage into the environment, rivers, and the ocean. Now, I will be introducing each of the speakers in turn. So let me first invite our first speaker of the day today, Mr. Maid Yanur Yasa, who's the founder of Plastic Exchange Indonesia. And I'd like to invite Mr. Yasa to briefly introduce the work of Plastic Exchange at the local level and highlight the challenges that they are facing, as well as the opportunities for improvement. Again, I mean, both for Mr. Yasa and the panelists that follow, I would encourage you to be limit your interventions to 5 minutes so that we have ample time for discussion, both amongst the panelists and with the floor. So Mr. Yasa, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm here. I love the introduction, local actors. Yes, I am. So I'm just going to go briefly here. I think everybody knows here what's happening in the world of the trash. And I love a trash talk, you know. This is so yeah. When you look at the trash, it's actually that's the composition that I know of. And if you look at over there, it's 60% of our trash is organic, and this is the one that never really get mentioned. You know, we always talk about plastic. It's become a prima donna, and yes, you know, because plastic is not integrated that fast. So my work is really work on a local level, on a really like individual or community level to really solve the problem with the solution. Yeah. So I'm just showing here, probably everybody knows this is the way we currently, how we handle our problem is the 3 mantra: collect, transport, dump. That's it. You know, after this conference, how many dump sites do we need to get rid of the plastic, so or trash? And then habitual habit and lack of the system. You know, there is so many policies, so many talks, so many everything, but what is the system? You know, because that's what lack of the system. Like in Indonesia, you know, do not throw your garbage here, but what should I do with it? You know, I think lack of system, which is not supporting the habit of the people. As you all know, all of this thing is leaked to the ocean. Everything will end up in the ocean sooner or later. Yeah. And then our food chain. So plastic is part of them. Yeah. Like the microplastic. And I think we eat like 1 credit card a week. Yeah. If not mistaken. And really what I do is what I call it education in action, because there is 2 kinds of knowledge. One is we call it cognitive, one we call it embodiment. Cognitive is what you get from conference right now. Yeah, you go home from here, you all become smart, you can become knowledgeable. That's how you get the cognitive. But the embodiment, the only way you can get that knowledge is through practice, period. You cannot get it the other way. So this is what I do. I give them cognitive understanding, but I also create a solution. So if you look at trash, there's two kinds of trash. One we call it organic, one we call it unorganic. And like I said on the first slide, there's a 60% to 70% of our problem is organic. But when that mix with the non-organic, that's what become a trash and it's end up in the ocean, period. That's it. Yeah. So the solution is actually the one on the right-hand side on the screen you see over there, an innovative solution. So this is actually based on the Balinese philosophy. We call it tebe. Tebe is where we throw the organic. Yeah. So we used to have this behind on the back of our compound, but that land is now gone because become a hotel, become a restaurant, become a house. So we really reinvented this space, yeah, to solve the 60 to 70% of the problem in the house. Yeah, this garbage never left the house, and it's become compost, and it's good for the environment and all of that. On the left-hand side over there is the solution for the non-organics. So we teach them how to separate, yeah, because we give them solution for the organic. Usually when the organic and non-organic is mixed and it's dirty, nobody want to separate this. So once a month in a village where I do these projects, they go to the community building, and then they basically we value their trash. Yeah. So I just show you a brief video here, how it works. So basically they have it on their yard. So it's done. Yeah. And then, why so I have this? Turn off this one. Okay, good. Thank you. You're an expert, huh? So, and then the other thing is, this is the problem in Bali now. Yeah. The water going into the soil, because now Bali is a problem with the underground water, because hotel, restaurant, we just take everything out, but we never put it in. Just like in a bank, we just take the money out. Nobody put the money in, so the bank will be collapsed. So this is what we do in a school like that over there. And then the one on top left over there is actually they make this hole in the front of their kitchen. They use it for eating. They put the garbage over there, the organic garbage. Yeah, the one on the bottom here, we do it in a school. So we do education, but we also provide the solution. And then this is on the right-hand side here is in a village. So people start doing it. And it's not rocket science. That's how we do it. And my last slide is really we need to change our mantra from the collect, transport, dump to separate them, transform it, and then we'll be prosper. So that's my presentation. So really what I'm asking for all of you here, what is the solution? What is the action? After this conference, if we just another policy, another this and that, I mean, I'm a practical, doesn't work, so give me money, we'll change the world. That's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yasa. I mean, very straightforward, and I'm really glad you pointed out to the big problem of first dealing with the 60% waste, which is the organic waste, and separating it before we address the plastic problem. So thank you very much. I'm now pleased to introduce the second speaker, Ms. Josephine Tan Mai Ling, who's the General Manager of Penang Green Council, Malaysia. And I'd like to invite her to introduce the work of the council and of course, the solutions and the challenges they're confronting and what the solutions they have. So Ms. Ling, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Shadul, as the moderator of today. Before I start off for my presentations today. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for the organizer, OECD, right, and UN COPC too, Natalie here, and Park and Iki for the best arrangement for that. So next, basically Penang State, just like our friend here just now said, we are the local actors, right? The local artists on what we are performing on the ground. That Penang is one of the state that belongs to Malaysia, and we are the urbanized state located in Southeast Asia that we have 1.8 million up to today. Not the very big state, we are the second smallest state among in Malaysia. So with a total areas of 1,048 kilometers square for both, we have both island and Seberang Perai, or we know it as mainland. So Penang, of course, faces a lot of challenges in solid waste management due to we have limited land availability as well. So in the year of 2019, we have approximately to generate 2,300 tons, metric tons of waste per day that's sent to our one and only landfill. We have only one landfill in Penang State. So after our calculations, we have around 2.3 kilogram generated per person per day. But also, apart from that, Penang, we have the highest recycling rate among in Malaysia. So we have hit 51% by the year of 2021. And not forget to mention, after our calculations, actually, plastic waste has ranking the second highest of the waste among in our solid waste management after the food waste. So next I will be sharing on some of what we have done in terms of tackling marine plastic waste in Penang. So basically, we are Penang Green Council set up by the Penang State government to nurture, facilitates and coordinates all the environmental causes in Penang. So of course, we advise, assist the state government in terms of policy and guidelines. And secondly, we're looking for projects and collaborations. And thirdly, we are empowered in doing all the education and awareness together with the local communities and outreach. Next, I will share a little bit on what state level, what are the policies and guidelines that we have in state levels in order to complement back to our federal levels policies. In federal level, basically in terms of plastic waste, we have Malaysia roadmap towards zero single-use plastic. We also have Malaysia Plastic Sustainability Roadmap, National Marine Litter Policies, and also Action Plan. So for state level, we have come up with our waste segregation as source policy since the year of 2016. It is supported by a bylaw. And second, on Penang Green Council, we have established one of the Penang Green Agenda as one of the big framework to support for the whole state initiative. Next, in terms of plastic, we are the first state that introduced for no free plastic bag campaign and also no plastic bag campaign in the whole Penang State. Next, followed by, we also have our local council that introduced for their circular economy roadmap. Next, I will share some of the initiatives that we do in tackling marine plastic pollution in Penang. This is our journey in terms of plastic waste. Penang State has officially started off for no free plastic bag day since the year of 2009. So that time we started off for every Monday. We choose for one day to start off first. They're starting to charge for every plastic bag for 20 cents for that time. So after that, followed by 2011, we have officially moved into every day is no free plastic bag day. So means that whatever in Penang, if you need a plastic bag, you need to pay for that. So moving on, 2012, we have officially banned on polystyrene food containers on that. So now in the whole Penang State, we don't have polystyrene food packaging. So you won't find it in our hawkers, you won't find it in our caterers and all that. So next, 2016, we introduced for waste segregation and as source policies. So currently we are separate into two mainstream, general waste and also recyclables. So moving on, we are looking for separate into more streams on that. So 2018, officially, we introduced for no single-use plastic. There will be include more plastic categories. And also, we have launching the whole Penang State vision. We call it as Penang 2030. So followed by 2019, we have no plastic straw campaign. And also, the no free plastic bag had officially moved into no plastic bag day. So means that until today, there is no plastic bag will be provided from every Monday to Wednesday, wherever. From every Thursday to Sunday, you will need to pay RM1 charge for that. Next, this is some of our plastic journeys. Next, I will share a little bit on what we have done. So under the Sea Circular Pilot Project that we have worked together with UNEP and also COPC, supported by the government of Sweden. This pilot project, officially, we have introduced a planting green community model. We know it as PGC model, introduced on that as part of the initiative to improve the circular economy practices, work together with the local community. For this 3R program, we are focusing on two main areas. One is residential area, another one is suburban area. So we have implemented the PGC model. Then by using the same model, we have developed and successfully replicate for these by using the same model. After that, replicate into more 6 different project in different district. So it serves as a way forward to educate community about the importance of waste segregation as source and effective way of reducing waste and pollutions. So of course, we have done a lot of plastic surveys in order to understand public perception and the acceptance level towards our policies on that. So we are collecting data on the ground together, and we have established some of the baseline development for plastic generations. Now, apart from that, we also done a lot of education and awareness, basically based on our waste segregation as source. And for Under Us, we have designed a different education program, starting by our kindergarten, from primary school, secondary school, from our adults too. So next, just touch a little bit on what is planting green model. So in order to enhance circular economy practice or 4R practices within a community, we have introduced this through the Sea Circular Project. So the model outlines 6 key steps here, which is starting from identifying the problem and challenges within the context of the community. So second, we start to have community engagement. So we go to the local community and start to understand the local challenges, what are the problems that they are facing, and start to build the trust from them. Because any other projects, right, the buy-in for the local communities is really important for that. We need to convince them in order for them to buy in the things that we are going to that they will take the ownership for the whole project, that it was successful. Then thirdly, of course, we will provide a lot of education, set up the platform for them for collections of recyclables. Then we are setting up the recycler center, followed up by the infrastructures. So 4, we have draft or set up a sustainable neighborhood development program. This is a framework. Is aimed to enable the implementations of long-term behavioral changes that focuses on bottoms-up actions driven by a group of communities, and in together partnership with our top-down resourcing. So as state government agencies, we are give them some support in terms of resources, financial implications, or facilitations and coordinations by our local government. Next, we will support by the circular plastic kiosk. That is how we start to educate and introduce circular economy concept within the communities. 6, of course, the implementations and monitorings on that. 6, I will share. Next, I will share a little bit on, of course, we have challenges. The next slide, please. Yeah, there are 5 challenges that we are facing while during the project's implementations on that. First, of course, public behaviors and mindset. The ability to engage the public and also to get them to cooperate in waste management greatly depends like their degrees of awareness and attitudes. So although many awareness and education programs have been conducted, the concept of, just now our friend shared, right, take, make, dispose, or someone will clean it up, not in my backyard, mindset is still there. So because we are dealing with local communities, there are different income groups, right? So sometimes we have to use different language in order to let them to buy in for that. So second, participation from our industry. So for industry part, Penang have a lot of industries. Actually, we are known as a Silicon Valley, and manufacturing company is there who are active in CSR. But this is not enough for our perception. So industry will need to step up and take the game and take a bigger responsibilities, not only beyond the CSR, but also start to provide other alternatives, especially in combating their plastic pollutions. That understand that today they are promoting for ESG. So this is also another good way for industry to take up the big challenges of that. So third, facilities. Of course, the lack of, for example, recycling bins, set up for all the bins, the infrastructures, we need to have a proper that seems to discourage recycling if the lack of recycling bins. So as some people will find it inconvenient to look for one. And up to that, they will rather to read for the ways that just throw it to the nearest rubbish bin if we don't have a good infrastructure to support on that. So fourth, of course, data collections and the availability of the data. So data availability on plastic waste is still lacking in Penang. Same goes to because it's scattered around. So there is a need to review and improve our baseline data collections. So data should be gathered in the long term so that the changes in trends can be observed. So we need a really good data collection system or tools to assist us to understand the whole data in terms of when we are doing some research, when we're doing exactly data is very important for us, whatever in policy making. Right. The next one will be addressing the human rights issues especially in informal sectors. In Penang too, we have a lot of informal sectors that is scattered around. So we are the local government is a bit hard to identify and give the support for us. So of course, social and economic impact on marine plastic pollutions causing the vulnerable groups, especially for these, in facing limited access to ecosystem support. So we wish that if we can, we have some experts or professionals to help us to identify how to address these issues. Right. Next will be, I think this is the end of my slides. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Josephine. I'm just wondering if you could go back to your slide on challenges. Yeah, this is a really good slide, and some of the messages you have here are echoing with a lot of the experience we have collected, including in many OECD countries. So on public behavior, we just did a survey of households, 17,000 households in 9 OECD countries. And we were looking at environmentally related behavior, not just on waste management, but a whole range of issues. And what we found was that awareness of many of these issues is very high, but when it comes to actions, there's still a reluctance. It should not cost more. It should not be too complicated. And so there's a big gulf there. And so I'm just wondering is it a question of awareness, or is it a question of changing habits, or is it because change is expensive? What is behind it?
It is, I think the awareness is there. The awareness level, as you mentioned, that when we do out our survey, actually, if I'm not wrong, there will be high for 78% that in Penang nights, they understand why today we need recycle, why we need to reducing the waste and that. But the behavioral change in that. So the awareness is there, doesn't means that we have to take it in action. Like Shadu, you mentioned before, right? So we have the awareness, but not necessary for me to do that, right? And then I think the infrastructures, the availability of infrastructures is there too, because people will opt for a more convenient way. If we want to, for example, recycle, if you want me to segregate my waste, right? We need a proper, how are you ensure that you can collect? The collection mechanism sometimes is also one of the problem that they're facing. Or after I segregate all of my waste, right? Then one of our haulers is just dump it everything, mix it everything. This is also one of the problems that we are facing too. So sometimes it's not the people, sometimes it's also the system, the waste management system. Yeah, so there are many things that not only the awareness, but it is interrelated to all the waste management system and that.
Thanks so much. Our first 2 speakers have been very disciplined, and we are very good in terms of time, so I'd like to open the floor if you have questions for Josephine or Siasa, either from the room.
I just want to add for what the challenges. I think we are, like I said, you know, we all understand. I mean, all of us here, like let's take this room. We all understand recycling and we talk about it. But how many of you are doing recycling right here in this room? You know, and I mean, I'm just asking this question. This is not like accusing or anything like that. But hey, here we are talking about it. Do we do the right thing as an individual here? You know, and then like on a local level, it's the same thing. You know, we have this slogan, we have this rules. I mean, everything. You know, but the system is not there. Even if the system is still the collect, transport, dump. And then we have a conversation today like, oh, what is the trash that people produce every day? Say like a half kilo per person. And then what their mindset is, oh, how big land do we need? How much truck do we need? I mean, go back to that mindset. We need to change the mindset. We need to, like this. This is what the program that I do here in Bali, the 60 to 70% is done in the house. Yeah. And when there's the organic is the problem also, because when it's mixed, who's going to separate them? Yeah. But the separation is done right there after they use it. Yeah. And if you have time, I can bring you to the village not far from here. It's 350 households. There's about 2,000 people done it. They used to have 2 trucks. Now they sold the truck. No need more truck. They only have small carry, like small car, just for the residual that they cannot recycle anymore. So it's really, the solution is here, you know, on a ground level. And how do we amplify this? And I know the program, a lot of program that can be replicated so easy. And it's been, you know, like this program has been happening for 5 years, but seems like nobody really want to grab it for some reason. I worked with Canadian embassy once and they were really good. So probably Italia won't work with us, I don't know.
Norway. Anybody in the room? Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you, Agrava. One question to my colleagues from Penang, Malaysia. Refer to this slide regarding the participation from industry. You say this go beyond CSR. What is the meaning of go beyond CSR? Why you don't put the EPR policy in Malaysia, of course, or in Penang? Because I think now in global level, maybe everybody will go to EPR now, policy. But like in Indonesia, we already introduced this producer responsibility. So we put the mandatory for to producer to responsible to their waste that comes from product and packaging. So how about in Malaysia or in Penang? Thank you.
Well, that's why we put EPR private participation should go beyond CSR, because what we see, the implementation of EPR, at least for now, is just a fraction of CSR. Because when they talk about EPR, it's just a mere, collection, and collection initiative is done on a fragmented basis, not to the extent of achieving plastic neutrality, for example. If a particular brand owners bring into the market 1 million ton of plastic packaging, logic thinking, they should manage to collect and dispose of in an environmentally sound manner as much as 1 million ton that they have brought into the market. But that is not happening. Why? Because they are just doing a CSR program in community-based level just to collect as much as they could. So we were thinking that EPR should go beyond CSR. And Malaysia now is implementing EPR at a voluntary level because we don't want to be over-imposing. I know EPR, take for example in Germany, they have been implemented EPR for the past 30, 40 years, but the first 10 years was a failure. So we don't want to have that same scenario happening within this region. So let them handle on their own, let them learn the bad and the ugly about EPR, and that let them be ready. Because one of the issues that they presented to us is that they don't want to have a free riders. So while big brands can implement EPR, but I don't want to implement EPR if the SMEs is not implementing it. So, you know, the convincing part is quite tough. And looking at the current post-pandemic, we cannot be over-imposing. But however, we plan to have a mandatory EPR regime by 2026. And currently, the draft EPR law is on the table. But we have not, advocated this EPR law draft with the industry. We just would like to see how the INC process goes, and is there any, appetite for global EPR, for example, and how does eco-modulated fee structure within the INC process will impact our economies. So again, maybe it's not right for us to pull the handbrake now, but I think it's a good strategy because the dynamics of the discussion with regards to plastic pollution is taking greater heights, especially during this INC processes. So let that settle so that at national and subnational level can complement whatever being discussed at global level. However, at global level, they cannot be over-imposing as well. They cannot simply, putting a very stringent compliance mechanism. Why? Because this region is not ready as much as they have done it for the past 30 years. Well, we need at least 15 years to compensate the success that we have not been given, or we don't have the flexibility to enjoy the success as much as other developed nation has enjoyed it. So again, EPR is on the table. It's just that we don't want to be pushing the EPR regime too drastically at this moment. We hope this voluntary EPR can nudge more participation from corporates or even the big brands, so that the SME will then willingly to join in the bandwagon, because it will create the push and pull effect. We don't want to intervene as much at this moment. Yep. Thank you.
I mean, these interventions, they raise a number of issues here. Let me turn back to Josephine. When you're working with industry, there's this issue of going beyond CSR, going to EPR schemes, whether they should be mandatory or not, and so on. But even, in other contexts where EPR schemes are mandatory, where we've seen a lot more success is in boosting collection rates, but not necessarily in changing product design. And that's where we need to go to have products which are designed for recyclability, or and so on. So have you worked with industry on either through EPR type schemes or other mechanisms to get them to change the design of the products they're manufacturing?
Actually, thank you for the question, Shardu. Basically, since last year, PGC, we have already launched a program that we call it as Penang Green Industry, that how we start our conversation and dialogues together with the industry players. And we focus on 4 main elements in there. So the first thing, we focus on waste management, then energy management, water management, and also eco-design that you mentioned for that. So eco-design, basically we have some conversations together on introduce the circular economy model to them. So because it requires a lot of conversations together with all the industry players for them to buy in, basically for no problem for all the MNCs, but we are focusing more on our local SMEs in order how to take that and to reduce the waste from the site. So park under our Penang Green Industry project, basically we have set up the platform establishment. There will be 3 parts of that. Then second, there will be starting off for this year, we will have some 3 pilot projects together that we bring along, pair together with their MNCs, together with their SMEs, in order for MNCs to assist them in order for their manufacturing productions and all that. So thirdly, we also support for capacity building for all the, especially for local SMEs, in terms of, we focus very much on ESG currently for all the whole Penang Green industry project. So this year, officially, we will start off with 3 pilot projects. So looking for, one of them is eco-design. So we are looking for and positive outcomes. And basically, in terms of state government, we have ready some financial support, not a big one, but to assist the SME to start for the first step for them to do that. So we are helping them to do the assessment on their current production line, to look at what are the improvement that they can make, or we will start to give on some suggestions to them according to the SMEs, local SMEs, and also packed together with the MNCs. This is how we work together with the industry.
Thanks very much. Let me now move to a third speaker in this panel, who is Mr. Dimanche. I'm using the French pronunciation. I don't know if that's correct. It is correct. Okay, Long, who's the Vice Governor of Prea Sihanouk Province in Cambodia. And again, I'd like to, invite you to introduce the work of your administration dealing with existing waste management systems and plastic managements, and what new initiatives you are developing to prevent plastic leakage into the rivers and the oceans. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Shadow. Well, good morning. Well, I'm so honored to be invited as the representative of my province, Sihanouk Province, in the 3rd Regional Ocean Policy Dialogue, which is held on one of the most charming islands in the world, Bali, Indonesia. At the same time, I would like to take this opportunity to thank to the OECD for organizing this environmental saving event. And as the representative of Sihanouk Province, I am greatly honored and grateful to be able to assist the future prospect of Sihanoukville being further connected with the global community in its utmost efforts to tackle the marine plastic pollution. So today, my presentation will touch upon 2 main topics, which will be a brief introduction and overview about Sihanoukville, the coastal area, and following by the will be the course of actions that Sihanoukville has undertaken to reduce plastic waste from the ocean and to increase awareness amongst general public and related stakeholders in this important matter. Sihanoukville possesses numerous economic potential due to its favorable geography in the Kingdom of Cambodia, with a total land area about 2,600 square kilometers. And Sihanoukville consists of 2 cities and 3 districts with 32 islands in its vicinity, while it has hosted a population of 310,000 people, which is not a big population. The province hosts many of the country's most beautiful bays in the coastline, and it is a member of the Club of the Most Beautiful Bays in the world, in recognition of its stunning about 175 kilometers of coastline, 32 islands, and rich natural resources that provide significant livelihood opportunities in the fishery production, trade services, industrial tourism, and ecotourism. It also hosts the only deep seawater port, which has served as commercial gateway to a local and international trade, amongst many others. Without further ado, let's get started with what our province is doing to tackle the challenge of marine plastic pollution. First, in the line with the royal government sub-decree on the regulation of the plastic bag, the provincial administration has implemented by imposing extra charging, like $0.1 US for each plastic bag used at the malls and supermarket in the whole province. This implementation has been pragmatic to reduce the amount of plastic consumption in the retail businesses and large in each household. Staff at the counter must inform customer about the price of the plastic bag by the time of checking out the supermarket, so that customer may reconsider if they really need to use plastic bag for their groceries. This practice has discouraged customer from using unnecessary plastic bags and instead encourage customer to adopt a more sustainable practice by bringing with themselves a tote bag or a grocery bag for the purchase. In terms of the efforts to keep our ocean clean of plastic waste, the Department of Environmental has installed waste traps, a filter on the 10 waterways in the river to prevent all kinds of waste from entering into the ocean. The collected waste mainly is waste incurred by a daily consumption. These collected waste are then transferred to the landfill for disposal or sale to the plastic collecting center. Besides the waste scrap, we also have another means of waste collecting, including using bulldozer to clean the beach, boats to pick up plastic waste that are floating in the sea, rivers. These are our proactive responses to systematically make our beach, ocean, and water system clean from the waste. In addition, the provincial administration also try to encourage the practices of not using plastic. For instance, we have designated a zero plastic zone in 3 pilot projects in the different locations. One of the project was installed in one of the biggest school in our province with a total student of 5,000 people. So through this project, not only that can we reduce the amount of plastic consumption, but we also can increase the awareness on that and start developing the sustainable no plastic practice of 4 Rs for students from the very young age. All students bring their own lunch boxes and they can also use the recycled bottle to get the clean water from the water dispensers. That's ensure there is no plastic bag or bottle used in the area in the school. One interesting fact is that because we know that our message might not reach to the parents or they would not put much thoughts into that. However, when the children whom they care for deliver the message, it is, we believe, is stronger and more effective. Another example in Koh Rong, one of the most famous touristic island of Cambodia, where we have made a plastic-free community, which we call mangrove ecotourism community. Not only do they not use plastic in their operation, but they also collect plastic and repurpose them by turning them into the pellet used in their infrastructure. So clean water dispensers are also installed on various locations in the public areas, such as in the market and school, so that a large part of plastic waste of water bottle can be greatly reduced. Adding to that, while conventional fishery equipment such as net are less popular, it remains a big problem for our ecosystem. As a result, the Department of Agriculture and Fishery, cooperating with the provincial hall, have set up centers to collect used fishery equipment so that our local will not toss them into the river or sea after they are out of service. The provincial administrations also works closely with the private sectors, local NGOs, and other stakeholders on these efforts. The province is actively collaborating with NGOs, including United Nations, Ton to Ton, FFI, to collect plastic waste that do not have value both in land and in water. These projects not only help clean the community, but they also help the informal waste collector to earn extra incomes. There are hundreds of informal waste collectors partaking in these projects because of they can earn a fair amount while cleaning the neighborhood. Waste burning is not a good solution, of course, but as of today, we are working with the private company that is investing in turning waste into the fuel and electricity by heating. The company has selected Sihanouk Province landfill as their target location to set up this operation. With this creative and pragmatic project, I believe that we can achieve a better way to deal with the plastic pollution in Sihanouk and in Cambodia as a whole. Awareness raising campaign, it's also instrumental and requires constant and continuing actions and practices. In order to raise awareness and increase participation from the general public, every year the provincial hall arrange a cleaning campaign to collect all type of waste. This campaign is held on the beach where many tourists can see and take part in the event. Also, we conduct workshop or refreshing section for hotels, resort, and restaurant to remind them and to introduce alternative products or reusable products. For instance, straw made out of rice or plant, bio bag, eco-friendly bag that are biodegradable. We also hold annual workshop promote to the royal government's sub-decree, which regulate the management and control the plastic bag consumption in Cambodia. This is here. This is the 4R, the reject, reduce, reuse, recycle sign, which we have installed on the public space, such as school, parking lots, to remind and encourage people to participate and stop using the single-use plastics material. Moreover, we have worked closely with the media. We conduct public awareness through environmental education, creative communication strategies, and other public relation and media activities. One of the most effective means of awareness spreading is through trending social media influencer, blogger or YouTubers. So we need fresh and creative idea, and they are the sources. This is the end of my presentation, and I hope that the lesson learned and successful practices of Sihanouk will be helpful for our participating colleagues and cities in their efforts. Unfortunately, we still have challenges. Well, this to cut down and eliminate plastic waste. Sihanouk itself, will also look forward to gaining more practical solution on this matter to solve this problem. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Dimash. That's a very comprehensive, multi-pronged approach, from charges on bags to education campaigns to cleanup and campaigns and so on. Maybe let me just kick it off with two questions. One is, do you have any monitoring mechanisms in place to see what the impact is of these various initiatives? Is it really cutting down on consumption and waste generation? I mean, are these campaigns working?
Well, I think technically, maybe my colleague from the Ministry of Environment can respond. Please help. But the campaign in our society, and especially in our province, I think that it works. It works, but not completely works. But like I just mentioned, that the awareness and also the participation of the public, and especially from the young age, that can contribute to solve all these problems. So I think the mechanism, maybe my colleague can respond on that. Because as for me, as the politician, so I'm not just a action taker.
Okay, thank you very much, Excellency, for your wonderful presentations, and respond to your questions that the mechanism, how to, we check up this, how our implementation is more effectiveness. Of course, in terms of this trash collections, we see that there is no change. The amount of legacy plastic and also the new one. In terms of amount of collection is the same, for the last 5 years. However, what the change in our see in our society is the best practices. That in MOE, the Ministry of Environment, we introduced 2 main programs that we so-called eco-school programs. It's as a national-wise implementation at all schools from K1 to K12, and all the schools try to the implementation of this. The eco-school guideline that we work with the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports, and it's a kind of these obligations by the schools. And then we also give this green certificate to the best school practice in terms of that. And at Cambodian level, we conduct this yearly basis, from the school who want to apply for the eco-school award. And also recently, in the last few years, we just launched another, we call Eco Pagoda programs. They're quite similar to eco school program, but we work at the pagoda, And the aim to reduce the amount of plastic at the community level, mostly at surrounding the pagoda. And the application or this certificate award is not yet given since there's a number of COVID, crisis, so we cannot, face-to-face conduct this field survey as well as the evaluations. And among this one, we have another introduced 2 levels of this environmental indicator. One, we integrated into this best public service providers that are run by the Ministry of Civil Service, and the environmental indicator is among those evaluations that we would like to keep this hospital clean and green. So not only the best services for the hospital itself, but also looking at the environmental phenomena within the hospitals. And the second program is we integrated into this commune or Songkat safety. Before we just looking at this security and safety in the commune, but now we integrated this environmental indicator criteria within this commune and Songkat safety program. And we also given the environmental award to the best commune who keep their community is clean and green. This is our challenge. So a number of the environmental activity is mainstreaming into our society. And also recently, the government also adopt this sub-degree to implement the so-called policy matrix on this reduction of plastics, where we would like to promote this clean and green institution at the public levels. So we hope that in the next future, so our new term government, this the implementation of the green solution will be applied. So thank you.
Thank you very much for those insights. Let me now introduce the 4th and final speaker of this panel, Ms. Susa. We apologize, Kyotim Shan. I'm sorry for completely messing up your name. Founder of the Zero Waste Laos initiative, to briefly introduce the work and what kind of initiatives you have, especially focusing on plastic leakage to the Mekong.
Good morning, everyone. Just my great honor to be here, and thankful OECD for having me here. So I'm Suksawai Kyaotiamchan, founder of Zero Waste Lao. Many people maybe want to know what is Zero Waste Lao. Zero Waste Lao, we are youth-led organization. We start in 2019, so this means we are still a young organization. So I'll focus on awareness campaign on waste management and climate change. More than that, we also work on pilot project on waste management and climate actions. And other area that we work is about youth development and gender equality. And the last one is about sustainability and environmental communication and training. And our vision and mission is to achieve what is national influence as a leader in development and implementation of waste management project, engaging youth to be sustainability leader, as well as to be a champion and influencer of climate action in Laos. So we have our mission is to establish a role model school over the country for waste management, such as waste separation, composting, stop burning garbage, and raising awareness to encourage you to solve the environmental problem. About us, so our team, even though we are a young organization or youth-led organization, but we have 85 members, and during 3 years, we could engage more than 3,000 participants in our activity, in our event. And why we also focus in gender equality is also because our team member, we have 80% are female. So this is quite interesting that why many female are interested to be environmental servers, problem server. So about our work, what we have done related to plastic or waste. For example, we also engage in a policy and also the guideline. And one of the work that we are doing is also supporting Monley to develop the National Plastic Action Plan together with World Bank and also EU. And another work that we are under develop is also about update and the context appropriate guideline for the best practice for preventing plastic liquid at the processing and handling activity of informal recycle and recent period loss at the factory. So with this also having the support from Ilya with Coach Kunyafa is here, and together we work with AIT. So that's about the policy and also the guideline. The other area that we work is the pilot project at school. So in the past few years, we have the recycling point at school in Southern Laos, with also having the support from Norwegian People Aid. So in the activity, we set up the waste separations and plastic collection and recycling, and also composting together with organic garden at the school, especially those schools that have dormitory and the student from remote area. And other work that we have done is Waste Hero. We call Waste Hero. So this one, we support informal waste picker. So we have two projects. The first one was with UNAS Thailand. So we conduct the study situations of the informal waste picker at landfill. And in end of the last year, we also having the support from the German embassy to build the capacity for health risk prevention, and also support the informal waste picker to provide the PPE and also first aid box. The next is about the youth engagement in plastic action. So as I mentioned that we are youth-led organization, and we focus to support youth to be sustainability leaders. So we organize many events and activity campaigns throughout the country. We have youth for SDG, we have youth climate action. We also have capacity building training program that includes system thinking, sustainability mindsets, and also soft skill that we conduct for the young people. So, and most of the event we always engage awareness about plastic and also waste management. The other work that we normally conduct is about clean up activity. So we have clean up activity in some of the important days, but sometimes when we have a campaign or we have training in some areas, so we also have the clean up activity to engage young people. And when we have events or any campaign, we always have seed fund for young people that they can pitch their ideas so that they can have the small grant to implement in their community, because this is very important that if you want to solve the problem, we also need to give opportunity or also seed funding to the young people so that they can also take action in their communities. What are the challenges that we have in Laos? So the first one is about we lack of comprehensive approach of waste management, limit the coverage of the waste collection service, and also recycling rate, and also infrastructure for processing and recycling, and also limit the control. For example, even though in my area, that where I live in Vientiane, I even don't have the waste collection service. So how I manage, so I separate all the waste, and also 1, 2 or 3 times in a year, I send it to landfill. So imagine if those who don't have awareness, they just burn the waste. So that's also very difficult in our country. Even though in Vientiane, we have only 40% of waste collection service, and some of the province allow not even 20% of the waste service in other province, and it's also open dumping, as you can see in the photo, that in the Mekong River and along the canal, and they just burn. This is very big problem in Laos. So that's why we focus on raising awareness and try to have pilot as much as we can do in our capacity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Suk Sabir, for. I'm so glad that we have a youth-led initiative also featuring in this session today. I mean, just coming back to what you said at the very end, I mean, you know, you have done a remarkable job raising awareness, maybe boosting collection rates and so on, but if the infrastructure is not there at the end, then that remains a big bottleneck. Have you reached out to the government? Are you working with government, or are you putting some pressure on? I mean, like, because you can't solve the infrastructure problem on your end, but are you interfacing with the government on those aspects?
Yes, so we quite work closely with government, both the local level and also the national level, for example, Monley. But more than that, because it's also related to the budget, right? When we talk about facility. So with that, more than that, we also try to engage the private sectors to be involved, but maybe it's not about that they can collect the waste, but how about reduce the waste generations or try to increase the recycling rate. That's how we try to do, but that also not the easy problem to have the facilities put in place. Yeah.
Yeah, normally we working closely together with the sailor with Laos. Is they have the human resource to implement projects. So and it's like for the my government, the national level, we have the limited of the human resource to implement. So I have to hand over to the to young leader to implement the other projects in under the government, and we have to sending to the SDG, sending to the many project to them. It's like a climate, it's like to waste management in my country as well. Yes.
Thank you very much. I have to ask you this question. I mean, congratulations. I mean, you said 80% of the membership is female, but I see a big challenge. I mean, why only 20% men? Does that mean that?
I think about the impact of waste or even the environmental problem, women are quite sensitive to this issue, and also maybe they care more about this. This also I always have question to myself, because when you will be announced to have volunteer or have new team member, always 80%. So maybe sometimes we have to announce, okay, only males that apply so that we can have gender balance.
Thank you for that. I'd like to open the floor if you have any questions or comments for the last two speakers first. And we also have people online. I'm not seeing the screen right now, so I don't know if there's anybody. Okay. Okay, there is who?
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Hello. I'm Guntit from PPLH Bali. Thank you so much for the great presentations. I have a question for both speaker. First is about the regulations, because in Cambodia and also in Laos, I've already have the great successful programs, I think. And do you have any plan to make banning single-use plastic regulation in your country? As in Bali, we have an experience when we are put the price to the plastic, there is not that running well. So Bali changed the regulation that we are banning single-use plastic. Maybe you can see, and you can go to the supermarket, for example, there is no plastic bag anymore selling. And then for the second question is about the youth movement that you already implement in your country. Is it possible that we can do approachment to the community as well as the youth? And what do you think about we are engaged with the whole communities, not only the school? Thank you.
Please.
Again, I think that my colleague from the Ministry of Environment, which is, from the central government, policymaker can also answer this. But for us and for my own perceptions, I think that when the plastic is still cheap and also light, flexible, and therefore is still very much preferred in a daily usage consumption as a bags, bottles, and containers, I still think that it is very hard for us to issue as the subnational level issue regulations to ban using the plastic. I think this is still not possible for us, but I think maybe our colleagues from the central government can help to respond, please.
Okay, thank you for your wonderful questions. And for Cambodian is I think the same way like Bali's. Since we see that the charge is not much effective at the beginning, yes, it worked well because we impose a fee charge to this consumer who buy a plastic bag with 10 cents per plastic bag. And then the government not collect that fee at all. So the fee is go to this, the shop or the mall. And then we found that people still, using because when they purchase a good about more than 10 US dollar or 200 US dollar, so they don't hesitate to pay 10 cents to put those things. And that fund is not to government at all. But now we try to develop our sub-degree on the plastic bag measurements, in the plastic measurements in all, but we focus mostly on the single-use plastics. And the plastic bag will be regulated that the plastic with the width bottom is less than 30 centimeters. It may not allowed available on the markets. And then also the thickness is I think 13 microns above will be available on sales. And the fee will be double, I think from 10 cents to 20 or more. And the fee is not given to this, the seller anymore. So the fee will be put to the government budgets, and the government will use that fee for subsidize to these recycling facilities and also to the waste collecting companies. That is to promote, try to promote this collections, service. And also we will, ban the plastics is less than 30, centimeters with the thickness below 30 microns should not available on the market as well. And we hope that if sub-degree adopted, so we will implement this one. And also the import of plastic, some plastic need to be, how to call that? Ask for licensing, by imported company, but we still promote the local production. And also the plastic waste will be sent to this recycling facility, then they can produce a certain of a plastic, percent of plastic can be provided to the locals. And for the styrofoam type, that's we totally ban for the user and also import in Cambodia because it's difficult to collect and also for recycling. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And please.
Yes, so maybe for us, we can also respond for the first question as well for about the banning plastic. So in Laos, as we are in the development of the NPAP, so banning of plastic, or we call it restriction of plastic item, especially the single-use plastic. So we have that put in place as well, but just depend on which year. But before that, we also have to conduct the study first which item, and then it's not just only about the banning of plastic. We also need to find out what are alternative product that we can repack. So that's also important because it's gonna affect the business sectors. So regarding to the second questions about the that engage with the community, of course, this community, we also having them. For example, just before coming here, we have the kick-off meeting to set up recycling point that in school, because sometimes we don't have the space in the community. So we see that the school have the space to have the recycling point. And with that, we also engage to have the community that they can give their recycled material in the recycling point, and we plan even to have the recycling day, for example, 1 or 2 times in a month that school have recycling day, and then the community can come and drop their recycling or can exchange with some of the product. That we also plan to have the business sector for especially those producer of plastic waste, like for example plastic bottle, that they also can have sponsorship to give some maybe incentive to the school, but how about the incentive to the student and also the community? So we've also tried to have as a comprehensive approach that not just only focus to the young people, but why we focus young people, because in Laos we are a young country that we have 60% of the young population, so it's very important to have them, but for sure we are not leave the community behind. Yeah, thank you.
Shadow, I can top up a little bit on.
Yes, please go ahead.
For the first questions, right? Just now, maybe I share a little bit of experience, what we do for No Free Plastic Bag in Penang. Basically, we have we go by face-to-face, from education and then environmental educations, and then start from enforcement. So how we do together with the business operators is we tie the license together with their business license. So it means that the supermarkets, hypermarkets, and all the retailers, right? So basically our local government, you have to compile with, you have to charge RM1 for now, Thursday until Sunday. Then Monday and Wednesday, strictly no plastic bag. You have to buy with these policies from the state government. If not, your license will not be renewed. This is how our local government do that in terms of getting their buy-in for these whole policies, and how we reduce for plastic bags. But exclude, of course, there is an exclude for wet markets and hawkers. That is the time that I fully agreed with our friends from Zero Waste Laos. That means because we are still finding the correct and suitable alternative for the hawkers and wet markets, because hawkers, Penang is famous of foods, right? So we have a lot of curries, gravies, and all that, hot soup. So we are still finding the alternative and suitable ways for us to get to replace the plastic. This is one of that. And tied up with the business license will be that effective one, but I said, because they won't get to renew their license. So eventually they will have to comply with it. Then secondly, about the banning single-use plastic, basically Penang is looking for having a framework. So by stages, because single-use plastic, we have different categories on that. So we have to prioritize what can be comforts and all that. So Penang has started off with plastic bag first, then we go for straw. Straw is by default. So means that if you need a straw, it's only by request. Right, so they will give. We won't publicly put your straws there. So this is available in all of our outlets, our food outlets on that. So thirdly, we are looking for the different categories of plastic waste, single-use plastic especially. So we are also banned for polystyrene. So there will be enforcement team will go on to the ground for that. So but there are always but for banning in terms of policy making, right, we have to really have a suitable solutions before we can implement any policies on that. I think this is very important, because our hawkers and all that, they are fully aware that plastic is not single-use plastic is not good, but they are still looking for affordable, accessible plastic alternative on that. Secondly, by engaging of communities, actually we do a lot of engagement outreach program together with our local communities in there. So basically what we do is, one, we working together with NGOs in there for door-to-door educations. Then we have a lot of a series of roadshows, and then we also do a lot of empowerment for the local leaders, because we believe that only the local leaders can walk the talk. Because for Penang Green Council or even the state government, we have only limited resources on that. But we need to empower and train the trainers on the ground so they can really go down on the ground to talk to the people. So because usually local communities, they believe on their local leaders. So this is how we do the empowerment part. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Josephine. And I think the point you made, that before considering a ban, you need to have, I mean, either the use must be unnecessary or you need to have a viable alternative. Now, I do have a question about straws. Why do you have straws coming next? Because straws, unlike bags, is not a necessity. I mean, and in many countries around the world, straws have been banned outright. Also, I mean, this is a general question. What about cutlery like disposable knives, forks, and so on? Do we have they been banned, or have there been any measures in any of the countries?
Not at the moment for Penang, but we are working together with some of the factories, right? We are using, for example, rice, some organic or bio compostable materials on that, but not for utensils, but straw. Yes, we are having a lot of other alternative on that we have introduced to the food outlets.
Thank you. I would like to ask the experience from Cambodia, Laos, or Penang in this effectiveness of the banning of single-use plastic. In Indonesia now, we have like 100 districts or cities out of 500 cities in Indonesia have regulated with banning of single-use plastic, including here in Bali. But the effectiveness of this banning is still questions, because so far I don't know, Pak Uso from Minister of Environment have made a like evaluation of this effectiveness, how many reduction this really made with this regulation. We don't know yet, but in fact it is quite effective in terms of in the supermarket or in the grocery, that's more modern shops. But in the traditional markets, in the community, in Indonesia, so many street vendors, food vendors, and so forth that still using single-use plastic. Even it's sometimes it's more than enough. I mean, we buy little thing, we can have two or three pieces of plastic for covering that, for example. So I mean, that's still we cannot really control it at that level. So I don't know if you have experience in dealing with this in terms of evaluation, and also how to really impose this regulation until that grassroots level. So if we can share on this. Thank you.
Josephine,
maybe we can go first. But so for Laos, we still don't have the regulations of banning single-use plastic yet, because we just start develop the National Plastic Action Plan. So we put if I remember correctly, it's about 2025 something that we will start some of the item. But with this is also for example, in Laos, we already have the challenge in terms of the enforcement, and even though we have the stop burning garbage, we have the hotline that also very difficult. So I think with this, if we will have the regulations or the restriction, we also need to set up the system that how can we monitor and like follow up to make it more effective. Yeah, but I hope that Laos can also move together for the banning of plastic together with ASEAN countries soon. Thank you.
Please.
Yeah, my country was not mentioned, but maybe I can pitch in the conversation. I think the on policies on banning and effectiveness of policies, the bigger question is, what is the alternative to plastic? And can we afford it, especially for us coming from developing countries? While alternatives are being developed, it is not yet at the commercial scale that allows us to apply it. Plastic is a wonder product. We're just waiting for the next wonder product that can replace it so that we can get rid of the problem. In the meantime, I think it's more important managing it. From our experience, it has some unintended consequences. When you put some, local regulations would have some actions on banning of plastic, but they have local consequences. Plastic Exchange mentioned about 60% waste is organic or biodegradable. That needs to be managed. That is not being managed. Shifting things to alternative products like paper has the potential to add strain if those paper or those alternatives are not recycled. Now we look at compostable alternatives, biodegradable alternatives, but what do we do with those alternatives at the end of its life? If we throw it away, we contribute even more. We'll need more of plastic exchange to put up more composting facilities at home if I can put a composting facility in an urban area. So we have to look at it. And then in the Philippines, while there is a significant reduction of carrier bags at the local level, the total waste at the end of its stream has actually increased because of the substitutes applied. And from a recycling point of view, I'll tell you that it has also affected recycling. Why? Supermarkets that are not allowed to give plastic bags has a tendency to give away the carton boxes. Correct? Right? Because there's no plastic bag. The paper bag is not strong enough to hold it. They bring home carton boxes. Question is, our citizenry, what do they do with the carton boxes? In the Philippines, well, there's a 20% increase in 2010. We did the survey. An increase of paper consumption led to a decrease in paper recovery. Why? Because we lost the carton boxes that went to your houses. So again, you have to harmonize the policies when you want to implement it to ensure that everything is, from an environmental standpoint is better. If we shift everything to reusables, get rid of the food chains, okay, if we shift everything to reusables, imagine its impact to water and wastewater if we have that resource. Okay, and I like the story about hawkers. What will they use when they do have paper? I still remember a time when they're using reusables before, but they have a pail. They will just dump it in the pail and then serve it again. Then we got sick because of, health and safety also is a concern. Thank you.
Thanks, Natalie.
Thanks so much. I'm actually really glad that you mentioned that, because I was going to ask a question on that. Some of the issues that we just discussed. So one, in terms of like blanket bans, are they actually based on any evidence? So we know that, for instance, banning plastic bags is very trendy. But in some countries, plastic bags are not the most prevalent, product found in the environment. And there are some communities that really, depend on those bags that they can get. They use them in different contexts. So, not saying that that's bad, but are we really basing it on like the evidence that we have? And when we put in place bans, are we also putting in place information on what is an acceptable alternative? Does this mean that we're just opening a space for completely unregulated things like bioplastics, whatever that is, which can, not defined, completely huge category of mix of things that often are not recyclable or don't fit into the waste management systems that we have? Or are we promoting going back to, there's some great things also in Bali where going back to more traditional materials or for the offerings that you see here, a lot of the time, a few years back, it was a lot of plastic use, and it's now gone back to, using banana leaves and all of those things. And that's, how things were done before, and it's fine. And it's not a huge impact on the environment. So what does it mean if we ban something? What will move into its place? Or are we saying we're banning, single-use products and not just plastic? Are we trying to eliminate where things are actually just unnecessary? So I think, the way that we frame things and the way that we go about regulations, it needs to go hand in hand with what are the alternatives, what will go in place. We need to think about, I think, the environmental trade-offs of, one regulation and then something else going in, or, how does it affect the waste management system? Where do you get those? I don't think it's a bad thing to then use cartons, but you need to be able to recover them if they've then gone somewhere else, right? So you need to, I think, it's much more complex than just having a ban, unfortunately. So I think these are all issues that we see in a lot of countries all around the world, where a ban doesn't just solve the problem, it opens up the door also to other problems. So that's, I think, where policy coherence is incredibly important, and understanding how the trickle-down effect and the environmental trade-offs. And I'd be really interested to hear, also in Thailand, for instance, there's a roadmap banning loads of different products, right? Like styrofoam and straws. But we still see styrofoam and straws everywhere because it doesn't include an enforcement mechanism at local level. It's just something where the capacity is not there. So I'd love to hear also from some other countries where there's really, good frameworks, but how do we move to implementation that is actually environmentally and socially acceptable? So maybe we can hear a bit more also in the next session from some other countries as well. Thanks so much.
And that's fairly typical for waste management infrastructure. You would not expect them to be dominated by grants. Grants represented 44% of the total during the period 2014 to 2020. Now, just focusing a bit on ODA, the increase in development finance has been driven largely by ODA. ODA allocated to projects with a plastics component has shown a 6-fold increase, and that's what I mentioned. Now, this chart looks at plastic leakage and development finance flows. So what you have in dark blue is the share of plastic leakage which is coming from a particular region. And what you have in light blue is the share of development finance which is going to that region. So for this region, other Asia and Oceania, you can see it's fairly comparable. But in most of the regions, you see a big mismatch. So for example, you have a lot of development finance, which is going in Europe, but the share of leakage is just 2.2%. So the point we are making here is that, obviously the absolute flows are relatively small, but there's a problem of targeting here. The finance needs to be targeted where the need is the greatest. And this is a key message, which we took to OECD donors as well. So this is the point I just made. And so if you look at India, plastic leakage 11%, the share of development finance 1.5%, and the opposite is Europe. Now, this looks at the main providers of development finance for plastics, so not waste management broadly, but plastics. And you have a combination of bilateral and donors and MDBs and of course the EU. Now, yeah, and the funding remains highly concentrated. 80% of the funding is provided by the top 7 or 8 donors. Now, this chart shows you the main providers of development finance for plastics, and it's slightly different from the previous chart, but you get the main picture. So ADB, for example, here has got the highest percentage. Now, what are some opportunities and approaches to scaling up action? And we would say that just looking a bit beyond financing, development cooperation has an important role to play both on the policy front, but also on in addition to the financing front. So on the policy front, development cooperation can play a greater role in supporting implementation of plastics-related policy instruments in the partner countries, fostering the creation and adoption of plastics-related innovation. And there's another element which came up through our consultations, adopting gender-sensitive approaches in waste management projects. On the financing side, aligning development finance with circularity principles, adopting blended finance approaches, which came up in the previous section, scaling up green and blue bonds for plastics, then exploring results-based financing for waste management, and developing finance instruments that leverage synergies across sectors. So this is my final slide. Looking ahead, what are some proposals for enhanced action? And we've sort of clustered these proposals in 4 categories. So resources, targeting, innovation, and coordination. So on resources, we need to scale up total resources available to curb plastic pollution because the level of financing is significantly lower than the financing needs currently. We need to better target development finance because this, as I showed, is a big challenge right now. We also need to adopt international good practices and foster innovation. This innovation dimension has not received as much attention in the plastics debate so far, but it's going to be extremely relevant going forward. And finally, we need to promote mutual learning and develop guidance for effective development cooperation in this area. With that, thank you for your attention. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. So from the graph, we know that we have to shifting the financing from the South America and Europe, perhaps to Southeast Asia. Anyway, I would like to call Ms. Tortora. If you have any very brief point to 1 or 2 minutes?
Thank you so much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we are here.
Thank you so much, moderator. It's a great pleasure to be with you, even though virtually. I would have loved to be with you physically. So my apologies for not making it to Bali. So my name is Piera Tortora, and I'm the lead of the Sustainable Ocean for All initiative that Shardul has just mentioned. And I wanted to just make 3 very quick additional points. First point, I wanted to signal to you that the OECD established the Sustainable Ocean for All a few years ago. And this is actually an initiative that has been established to specifically to support low and middle income countries embark on sustainable ocean economies. So really to support these countries harness the benefits of more sustainable ocean economies. And it is as part of this initiative in collaboration with Shardul's team that we have conducted the study that has just been presented. Secondly, I also wanted to highlight that as part of the Sustainable Ocean for All at the OECD, we conduct what we call the Sustainable Ocean Economy country diagnostics. And these are studies that look across the different sectors that compose the ocean economy of specific countries. We look at what are the economic trends of these sectors that compose the ocean economy in a country, and we advise countries on the range of policies and financing tools that they can use to enhance sustainability of existing sector, but also of new innovative sectors of the ocean economy. And some of the, in some of the country diagnostics, we have also looked specifically at waste management. And also, we are about to start a number of sustainable ocean economy country diagnostics in Southeast Asia as part of the Sustainable Ocean for All initiative and as part of the OECD Southeast Asia program. And a third point, and that's my last point, as part of the Sustainable Ocean for All initiative, we're also developing a guidance to enhance development cooperation in support of sustainable ocean economies. And this is very much needed because there has been an increase in interest in the ocean economy on the part of donors internationally, but overall support for the sustainable ocean economy is still very small. It's still about 1.5% of official development assistance overall. So through this work on guidance for impactful development cooperation for sustainable ocean economy, we really aim to boost support in this area, but also really enhance the impact of the support that is being provided. And the guidance will be articulated around a core module that will look more broadly at the requirements for impactful support, but it would also focus on specific areas. And one of the sub areas will be also tackling plastics. So we very much look forward to continuing working with you on this, to shape this guidance, to receive your inputs and to engage in dialogue towards more impactful international efforts to curb plastics. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Tortora. As long as it's come and handy, we will, and please distribute the guidelines. Let's move to our second speaker, Ms. Anna Feng. She's a senior country economist, Indonesia resident mission of Asian Development Bank. She will be speak about the role of multilateral development bank in mobilizing finance and introduce ADB works on the Blue Sea Finance Hub. The floor is yours. Be punctual, please.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. As introduced, my name's Anna Fink. ADB has been involved in this forum a number of times in the past, but it's the first time for me. So thank you very much for having me. It's a real pleasure. I won't take very long. I just want to take the opportunity to Okay, it's a little bit of a delay there. Let me first start at a corporate level. Already a few years ago, the Asian Development Bank enhanced our commitment to supporting healthy oceans in the region. And we did this through the development of an action plan for healthy oceans and a commitment to put at least $5 billion worth of financing behind that commitment by the end of next year. And that covers all of the aspects of blue, including pollution control, which is, of course, is most relevant for today. I'm sorry, there's the remote control doesn't seem to be working. BC, could you move it on to the next slide? The previous one. Thanks. So to operationalize the commitment, the high-level commitment, we established a Blue Southeast Asia Finance Hub, which is essentially a platform for trying to create synergies between different financing modalities and different aspects of our assistance. So the key objective is really to accelerate the development of a pipeline of blue investments in the region. This regional hub is actually housed in Indonesia, and we've initiated activities in Indonesia first as something of a pilot. The other objective of the finance hub is to increase the flow of blue capital coming into the region and the country. So since we've started the finance hub, in addition to our ordinary activities, we have brought 2 new projects into the pipeline, one of which is working with the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries on upgrading and development of integrated fishing ports in Indonesia. The other is an initiative which is supported by a number of different development partners led by KfW and under the stewardship of the Coordinating Ministry of Maritime Affairs and Investment. And that is looking at developing a policy-based loan which would support the policy reforms under the National Action Plan on Plastics. In addition to these potential investments, we also have worked around different aspects of leveraging blue finance. So, for example, we've worked with the Bappenas, the Ministry on Development Planning, around the kind of frameworks and guidelines that are necessary to work towards the issuance of a blue bond in the country. And we've also partnered with the UNDP to establish a blue finance accelerator. The Blue Finance Accelerator has essentially 2 components, one of which is working, so UNDP lead on one component, which is a business incubator and accelerator. So they are identifying small and medium-sized enterprises and supporting their growth. The other component is to work with officials across different ministries in government to identify and develop underlying investments and assets which count as blue, which can then, of course, lead to further pipeline of underlying assets for future blue finance products. Next pipeline slide, please. So in addition to the Blue Sea Finance Hub, we also have a relatively large technical assistance, so grant financing across a number of the countries here in this region. And this is looking at things like improving data and metrics, working at city levels on action plans, piloting certain new technologies, testing different facilities, supporting regional initiatives around harmonization of with ASEAN and COPC, and so on. Next slide, please. So in Indonesia specifically, this technical assistance has a couple of different things, just briefly to mention. So we are looking at working very closely with the city of Cirebon on a city level action plan. The idea is to create a kind of end-to-end approach to working with Cirebon that is looking at the enabling environment, the retribution fees for waste collection, also EPR. So quite a holistic approach with the idea that we test this in Cirebon and then potentially roll out to other cities in Indonesia. Next slide, please. Also related to this, we have financing from a high-level technology fund, which we are looking to use to develop some of the digital tools that some of the cities are experimenting with in Indonesia, particularly in terms of so collection of waste fees, but also end-to-end waste management applications. Next slide. Of course, we also support various different platforms for engagement and knowledge work, not least of which the National Plastic Action Partnership. And next slide. And then the final point that I wanted to make is that, so Asian Development Bank, we don't just do sovereign financing, we also lend to the private sector. It's all under one house. And just in a couple of years ago, we had our first blue certified private sector loan in the region, which was for a recycling company actually based in Thailand, but with facilities here in Indonesia. And we are looking at potential opportunities in Indonesia in this sector, because it is an interesting area for investment. And we also have various different public-private partnership transaction services, advisory services, which we're looking to tap around the waste management space. But I think just to sort of wrap up, what we are trying to do through the Blue Sea Finance Hub and these various initiatives is to create an ecosystem of support, because as we've mentioned throughout these couple of days, this is systemic, this is complex, it needs a lot of different solutions. I think that there are still gaps in our assistance, particularly at this scale between sort of the micro and the medium-sized enterprises is something that we need to look at. We need to expand blended financing platforms, which is something we're doing successfully in other sectors, but we could maybe bring that experience to bear in the waste sector. So that's it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. No, give an applause to Ms. Feng. Okay, so we have, if there are any questions, quick. No? Okay, so Mr. Oh, okay.
I think the challenge with ODAs is actually filling the gap on infrastructure. Then my question would be, first, how do we translate ODA outside capacity building and technical assistance to the infrastructure that countries here in Southeast Asia needs to meet the challenges of prevention of marine litter? Second, for the loans point of view, how do we keep the cost of money interest low also? Because, you know, from experience, interest might be low from the ODA, but it goes through the local system and it ramps up, you know. And you mentioned about local city level loans. What is the smallest loan that can be afforded to local governments? Because they might not be at that big scale that is needed for you to justify the cost of money of processing a loan application or even an ODA application.
Okay. Ms. Feng, do you want to comment on that? How can we move it to investment and how to keep the interest rate low?
So in regards to investment, I think there's two elements. So I mentioned in relation to the private sector and also PPPs. So I do think that this assistance of being able to structure investments, the financial structuring and put together players can open up quite a lot of the financing for those kind of infrastructure investments, which maybe fall outside of direct government supported investments. In addition to that, one of the things that we hope about this engagement at policy level is also that you're having an impact across the entire enabling environment for infrastructure investors to come in. So I think it is always important to try to work at that cross-cutting level as well as sort of individual infrastructure transactions, which is how we try to approach it. In regards to the city level loans, that's not something we can do. So this is a big challenge for us about how to engage. There's some facilities within Indonesia, for example, that we work through. So we can work through intermediaries to do subnational level investments, but we can't do direct. But this the ability to kind of cluster investments at sort of regional level, I think is a very interesting thought process that we need to go through to increase infrastructure investments.
Yes, so in Laos, I just would like to say and also ask some opinion or suggestion, because we also include the support of the recyclers as help them to assess the finance. We used to have the interview with them with many recyclers. So the big problem for them is about the interest, the loans, because it's quite almost the same. But when if compared to the other business, we might call the recycling as a green business, right? But at the meantime, they also face the challenge that the interest is quite high. So in Laos, we don't have any policy to support this kind of activity. Meanwhile, we try to promote a lot. So many of the factory also have to close down. And also one more thing is about the technology that they use. So we try to like, for example, we have EAA, many of them even don't have the certificate and need to meet the standard. So when they want to meet the standard, this means they have to invest in the high quality technology. So that's also related to the finance. So this is quite some of the problem that we see in Laos. So I'm not sure if ADB or others bank that have policy or have any plan to support this kind of issue. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Fink again. Would you like to address, or we leave it for another session for the panels from the World Bank? Or do you want to make any comment, Ms. Fink?
I think maybe just in relation to the question on the interest rate that comes sort of to the small borrowers, there are ways that like an MDB like ADB, we can lend through banks. And I do think that obviously when you work through other partners, then the cost goes up, but the financing originally from ADB is fairly competitive. And then the trick is then to work with partners, NGOs, CSOs, other partners that can help reduce the risk, and hence try to reduce that kind of add-on cost as much as possible. So I think that's when you kind of have a magic partnership between MDBs, maybe local banks and others like community-based organizations can really help address that.
Okay. Thanks for that. So it means that it's open the opportunity for blended finance, right? So we just cannot count on the development bank. Okay, we move to the roundtables. We have 6 panelists, but a little bit changed because we don't know Miss Anjali Acharya now where she is. So and we can also address your questions directly to her if she is now online with us. So Miss Anjali Acharya is a marine plastic leader or senior environmental specialist from the World Bank. Time is yours. Can you also address the first question first before, but it will reduce your presentation time.
No, I think
okay.
what I'll do.
Okay,
Thank you.
I will ask you the same question for the discussion later on. Okay.
Great. I was going to say in my presentation itself, I'll be able to answer some of those questions. But first of all, thank you very much for inviting me. And I really, really wish I could have made it to Bali, but unfortunately, as you can imagine, everybody's got a tight schedule right now as we're preparing for the INC2. But I've been joining many of the discussions. And so I will try to knit in some of the work that I've heard already into my presentation. Just wanted to make sure that you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, you can. Okay. All right. So let me just go straight into it. Yeah, and I'm so happy to see so many friends and colleagues in the audience from several of the ASEAN member states. So I'm really happy to see you there. So what I'm going to present, in 10 short minutes is, a quick overview of the World Bank's program in marine plastics, covering analytical work, policy support, and investments. Some of the key issues coming out of this particular session is really to, understand what is needed in terms of plastic diagnostics and policy levers. How are we helping to share knowledge, especially on innovative solutions. And then looking at the range of financing tools to address the whole plastic pollution challenge. Of course, the World Bank works globally, but there's been a specific focus also on Southeast Asia. We have been working in, let me just walk through this. So one of the things that we do is we have developed this life cycle approach, which I think everybody is very much on board with in terms of looking at the upstream, the midstream, and the downstream, sort of rethinking the source, stopping the leakage, and then cleaning up as the last resort. And in that space, we look at a range of financing instruments, loans and grants, of course, but also looking at guarantees, bonds, blue loans. I heard the previous speaker from ADB talk about Indorama, which was set up with the International Finance Corporation, our sister organization. We do a bunch of advisory work, and then we look at ways to bring in the private sector. So I'll go into that in a little bit. Just want to share with you a quick smattering of the kinds of analytical work that we're doing. So in Indonesia, Thailand, etc., we've done a lot of material flow analysis, plastic waste discharges, setting out baselines in different countries. And the reason for this is to say, first, you need to understand what is your plastic context. Many of the countries, the ASEAN member states, for example, need to understand what is it, how much plastic, what type of plastic, where is it flowing from, where is it flowing to, what are the issues relating to that type of plastic before you get to the next step of identifying policies. We also try to understand, the context of the public and private sector as partners in providing solutions. And in that space, we wanted to make sure that we understood very clearly through market studies, and we've done 4 of them now across the regions of Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, as well as the Philippines. And these market studies really sought to understand what are the barriers to private sector engagement in this sector if plastics is indeed a valuable material. Why is it that they're not there? And the answer often lies in the absence of a guarantee of feedstock, as well as not really being sure of the offtake market. So establishing the market for recycled plastics, etc., is critically important. We've also done other technical studies, whether it's on gender and plastics or technology solutions, or bridging the gaps in solid waste management. These are all sort of examples that we're working on across Southeast Asia, but also across the world. Now, one of the elements that I heard very clearly in some of the earlier sessions was the need for policy harmonization, and it's become even more clear as we move towards a legally binding instrument, is how to bring together these different policies. So the World Bank was entrusted by the ASEAN member states through the chairmanship of Thailand a few years ago to prepare this ASEAN Regional Action Plan. And thank you, Shardul, for the shout out on that. This action plan, took a year to prepare, involved many of all of the ASEAN member states in regional consultations, and collectively they came out with these group of 14 regional actions that they have identified as the ones that they could most benefit from, that have the economies of scale, that have the common elements that would be useful for each of them. As we know, Southeast Asia is a group of very quite diverse countries in terms of socioeconomic context, policy context, capacity context, and plastic waste context. And in that context, putting together these kinds of actions, whether they're guidebooks on common methodologies or regional studies or regional stock taking of green public procurement, these are all areas that have been needed and requested for by the ASEAN member states. Well, that is work that we do in the policy space regionally. There are also a lot of work that we've been doing very specifically country by country, and a lot of this also connects with each other. So we have, looking at Thailand, where we help to provide the elements of their marine plastic action plan, or looking in different countries around the world on roadmaps to phase out single-use plastics. For example, in the Philippines, we're currently doing work on that roadmap to phase out single-use plastics, and also knitting in the concepts of the EPR that my friend Crispin Lau mentioned as well. What we also do is not only trying to understand the kinds of policy elements that are needed by different countries, but also putting together toolkits to help countries make those decisions. And one of the main toolkits that we put out just last year was a combination of the plastic policy simulator and the plastic substitution trade-off estimator. And through this toolkit, it really helps to identify how to incentivize the different agents' behaviors and investments, what are the impacts of policy instruments, and who bears the costs of policies. Now, this is important because, as we know, when governments start to think through which of the policy measures to go down, they need to see who will it impact, how will it impact, what would be the costs, etc. So really having an understanding of that concept and the pathways that they would be choosing would be critical. In plastic substitution trade-off estimator, this is really looking at the different kinds of substitutes there are in terms of plastic products as well as their alternatives, and what kinds of plastic management targets can be achieved. So this is some of the decision-making tools that we've been doing. Now, so we have the analytics that we've done in terms of looking at different types of studies. Then we do the policy elements to build on the analytics. And now we sort of look towards opportunities for investments. As you know, the World Bank works across a range of different sectors. So whether it's solid waste management projects or tourism projects or fisheries projects, which of those lend themselves, or even agriculture projects, which of those lend themselves to having plastic related measures embedded within that? And we have some examples here, but there are even more examples from around the world that are coming up. This is also in context of investment lending, but also development policy lending in terms of the particular kinds of policies that need to be supported. At the regional level, we have across Asia, we have two regional projects. One is a project in South Asia, which is called PLEASE, and it really is a $50 million regional project to help South Asia curb its marine plastic pollution. And then more recently, about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, the World Bank approved a $20 million regional project grant for the ASEAN. Now, this grant is primarily responsible for helping to finance the very regional actions that have been identified by the ASEAN member states as being the critical ones that they need to look at. And we're happy to note that there's a very close alignment between this project and the work that is being done at the global level. So how do we finance some of them, some of this work? A lot of the analytics and policy work has been financed through various trust funds. One of the largest one is ProBlue, which is a global partnership to support integrated and sustainable economic development. While ProBlue is writ large on blue economy, there is Pillar 2, which is on marine litter and marine pollution management. Overall, there's about $200 million, I believe, that has come in through several bilateral donors towards this particular trust fund. Of that, the largest portfolio has been on plastics, where there's $37 million spread across the world, really to identify key analytics and policy support with the point of view of helping countries move on their transition pathways. There was also in this session a question about platforms for innovation. I heard Second Muse talking, lots of work that they're doing in terms of helping to foster innovation at different levels. And we have, you know, a lot of investments that are coming in at different points of view. You have public sector, private sector, philanthropy. You have the impact investors, circulate capital, etc., that are also in that space. So when we came in to look at the CMAP project, which is that regional project across the ASEAN member states, what we wanted to make sure is that we don't duplicate work that is being done by others, but indeed find our value added in terms of creating platforms for innovation and investment and creating platforms for knowledge and partnership. So essentially being able to bring together different types of innovations, different types of investments, and playing sort of a matchmaker of sorts to see what kinds of investments need what kinds of, can be linked to what kinds of opportunities. So whether it's looking at plastics recycling, or it's looking at alternatives, or it's looking at cleanup measures, what is the financing out there and how can we best connect them? And this is what we hope that the ASEAN Secretariat and the ASEAN member states would be able to use these regional platforms to bring in different public and private sector entities. My last slide is on exploring innovative and other financing, and we've seen how the analytical work and policy support is really helping to identify a range of different financing measures. And I took note and took screenshots of many of Shardul's slides, as I found them to be tremendously important. But also the options paper that has been put out by INC2 and UNEP really identifies a number of different kinds of financing, whether it's plastic fees, taxes, or levies, looking at EPR systems, public-private partnership. Won't go into all these in detail, but suffice to say that through the work that we're doing in many of the countries across Southeast Asia, but also around the world, is to really, first of all, bring best practice, trying to see what works where. You do not have single solutions that will fit all countries. You do not have a silver bullet that will work for all countries. So how do we customize these different approaches? What makes sense in what context? And really working with individual countries at various levels, as well as regional to make sure that many of these options for financing come through. Now, as we move towards INC2, there have been discussions, and indeed in the options paper, about how would financing sort of be looked at and brought together. And we're hoping to hear very soon about a proposed side event that we will be doing at the margins of INC2, where we will be working along with OECD and World Economic Forum and a few other agencies to really dissect the financing question and try to identify the ways that countries and regions can move towards in their plastic transitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anjali. Please stay with us. We still need your answer how to make the interest rate low. Okay, I'll go around. Please share your experience for 5 minutes only, or 7 minutes tops. Share your experience how to channeling the public finance to tackle the plastic barrier, especially what are the challenges and also the enablers active point conditions. Thank you. I'll start with the Mr. Roel from Cambodia.
So your question is, thank you, for your giving the floor. Regarding the challenges in Cambodia, and of course, we, normally in terms of the fee, collection fee, for, waste measurements, there's a place there. And also the challenges in terms of plastic recycling. We don't have the, the private sector don't have enough, financial support for them to collection, as well as the production of these, the plastics, as well as their marketing is another problem, because when they produce a plastic, products, out of this plastic waste, then they can find the markets. And because people are still, favor with this, primary, plastic production rather than from recycling. That is why investing in Cambodian, they looking at the other alternative use by converting plastic into energies, but it's still not economically viable. So that is need more support for that in terms of the equipment, basically. Yeah, this is the main challenges for us. And another challenge is we don't have a proper policy to provide a subsidy to them, and also the government don't have this mechanism to collect plastic, import export fee to be contribute to this local investor. Generally, we have only one scheme that the collection fee is to the government budgets, but not, refund back to this, plastic, collection and also a production scheme in Cambodia. So these are the main challenges in Cambodia. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I continue to the other panelists. Mas Gary. Mas Gary, because let's start with the one of the alternative of innovative financing by using economic instruments like levy or tax. Can you share Indonesian experience on that?
Okay, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Jerry from Ministry of Finance. I quite be a fortune teller, actually. I know this question may come to me soon. Okay, in 2019, we aimed that Ministry of Finance and other colleagues in governments related to environmental, and then we aim to establish the plastic excise. But after we harmonize with the parliament, they want us to add some object, not only plastic bag, because at the start we only want to impose the excise to plastic bag. They want us to add some object, and we need to recalibrate and spend around 2 years, recalibrate the models, recalibrate the assessment, even the draft itself. Even in the midst of pandemic, now we have a mutual agreement, like we expand the object, what we need to impose the excise to multi-layer plastic packaging, even styrofoam and plastic straw. But in 2023, we still under discussion with Ministry of Industry for finalizing the draft. And we aim to start establishing again and propose it to the Parliament in Q3 2023. So I hope it will answer this question, how long we prepare the excise plastic excise draft regulation. And then the fun, or maybe the interesting idea behind that is we have a principle, we develop a principle either related to plastic pollutions or even GHG emissions that Ministry of Finance need to ensure the just and affordable transitions. How we need to consider the economic distortion if we impose something related to environmental, especially it's really a tough dilemma, I believe, in every country, especially us in Southeast Asia. We have a great opportunity to rapid growth after the pandemic also. So we need to consider the great momentum, how we impose even the carbon tax that we conducted, even the plastic excise in the future, how we can have a great momentum to impose that. So I hope that answered the question.
Okay. Thank you, Mas Gary. Mas Gary is a senior analyst, fiscal policy agency from Ministry of Finance of Indonesia. Okay, we continue. I will also ask perhaps the same questions, the challenges and the enabling conditions, but this time for the panelists from Malaysia, Mr. Ali Murad, can you also give an example innovative financing like PPP?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Well, I'm not the finance expert. I might not be able to give a financial overview of how to tackle marine plastic pollution. But what I can share is something that we have done in Malaysia. Well, my response include two components. One, for large-scale sustainability projects, and for small-scale sustainability projects. Well, since 2010 and to date, we have mobilized a Green Technology Financing Scheme, GTFS. And currently, we have evolved GTFS to 3.0, amounting to 4 billion ringgit Malaysia in green investment, as well as we managed to create at least 2,500 green jobs. And this is to finance projects such as MRF, recycling facilities, not as big as advanced recycling facilities, but a basic mechanical recycling facilities, as well as sanitary landfill and eco waste park. Apart from that, we also issued sukuk or bonds, we call it. We call it sustainability bonds, and this bond has been issued since 2017. And up to last year, we have issued 3 bonds, 2 in Malaysia ringgit denominator and 1 in US dollar denomination. But the breakdown of the investors within these three sukuk, if I can share, we can see about half of the investment coming from local banks, 38.4 coming from institutional investor, including Employee Provident Fund, Khazanah, etc. And 7.2 coming from insurance company. However, only 4.1 coming from foreign investor. So maybe to address or to answer your question, I would say there's no appetite from the investors. Well, I'm referring to specific foreign investors into projects in Malaysia. Well, we can see from the presentation earlier that the money is there, but the money is not for what we want. For example, we want to have a modernized, advanced recycling facilities, because the issue at hand or the issue in our country is to manage the plastic leakages of plastic waste. We know how to collect, we know how to separate, but if we don't have a good facility to manage, it will not make sense. So we need investment in that particular area. And moving forward, recently, last year or last 2 years, we have introduced another financing mechanism where we call it wakaf, or in English, endowment. This is particularly for a small-scale project. And this particular project includes supplying drinkable and clean water to suburban areas as well as remote islands in Malaysia. And this particular endowment programs managed to encourage community and public participation in, owing to the environment. So they chip in to ensure that they can manage the environment as well as give benefits to local communities. Last but not least, just recently in April, we have launched another, I call it non-fiscal incentive for companies who can sponsor and install reverse vending machine throughout Malaysia. So this can nudge private sectors to ensure that whatever plastic being brought into the market are effectively collected at the end of the process. And by sponsoring those reverse vending machine, Malaysian government give tax rebate. So this will nudge more, EPR and private sector participation in addressing the issue at large. Also, to answer your question, I think access to finance is a problem. Well, we know the money is there, But by virtue of me saying access to finance is lacking, because we want access to financing facilities, for example, the money to the money for facility investment is not there. Secondly, cost of financing. I heard few of our colleagues mention that how can we get lower interest rate and so on and so forth. Well, even the money is there, but if the cost of financing is high, it will not be palatable to countries like Southeast Asia region. So maybe these two things we need to look beyond giving grants or giving loans and so on and so forth. But as I said, I'm not a finance guy, but maybe we should look from another perspective of giving financing or providing financing. So that's it, Madam Moderators. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ali Murad. So I continue to other panelists, because from previous sessions you mentioned that in the case of Philippines, most of the project and activity from the private sector is bankable. So we wonder how it works. So how to make it bankable in Philippines case. But from other, it seems like most of us agree that it's unbankable. It takes time. We have to make sure what type of the scheme where we can tap that it will be interest to the commercial bank or the development bank. As mentioned, in Malaysia case, there's no appetite to finance the plastic pollutions, to tackle the marine plastic pollutions activity. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Moderator, for giving me the opportunity for an erratum. I never said that solid waste management is bankable. It's a big challenge. But then you have to think outside the box and find opportunities where you can spur investments into marine litter solid waste management per se. With the topic of public financing, this is a big challenge. You see, where do you tap the loans? ADB mentioned and World Bank. The money is available at the national level because you need some level of scale for borrowing and also for the security of those loans at the national level as compared to the local or city or municipality level. Now, I've been there, done that. I have done an extensive review of an ADB loan supposedly for a couple of LGUs or cities to be applied by the national government. The bigger issue is that how can we perhaps cut the time frame for the whole process from the feasibility until the studies, etc., post-studies. It takes too long, and sometimes it surpasses a political cycle. Then you have to start all over again with the new leader. I mean, those are the realities on the ground. It gets frustrating because after you get a feasibility study that is voluminous, and after you have reviewed it, after you have submitted it, then you have a change in government, and then the interest sometimes changes. So those are the realities in the ground. In the Philippines, the challenge really is putting money into plastic marine litter at the local government unit or the city level who is tasked by law to implement solid waste management. Solid waste management becomes a problem because there are not because the local government doesn't want to do it or the mayor doesn't want to do it, but because he has other priorities, calamities, health. Okay, those are some issues that he still has to spend too. Now, the national government recently increased the allocated percentage or share to the cities and municipalities for them to have more access in financing. But again, that does not assure that that money would go to waste management. And for the cities, again, there needs to be a mechanism, so that national level can provide loans. Sometimes I envy Japan because there's a cost sharing scheme. In many countries, there's a cost sharing scheme, clearly identifying for infrastructure investment national and local government share for investments. No? It's gonna be difficult looking at bankable project because solid waste management is a cost. The best way we can do it is that the investment has to be done by the national government. The operating expenses can be done by the local government so that you have that sustainability. Okay. Again, you have to address if the national again, if you still need to look at return on investment, forget it. That I think it's going to be a big challenge.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lau. But I would like to also ask the opinion of my from our government sides from Indonesia. Do you have-
Well, thank you, Ibu Amanda. So I just to echo what Mr. Lau mentioned, it happened also in Indonesia, but just starting last year, actually, we tried to have a breakthrough investment, meaning that we try to incentivize the private sector's investment in waste management. Just a month ago, President Jokowi launched the first and the biggest waste management facility here in Bali, and with the capacity like 1,000 tons per day to manage all the waste from the city of Denpasar. So it's one of the like city scale waste management here. The investment model is the central government provide the buildings, and we invite the private sectors to invest on the facility, machinery, and give them like 20 years of concession. And then local government provide the lands for that building, and also pay a certain amount of money for operational, like we call it service fee to the operator or to the private sector. So it's gonna it can like lower investment from the private, and they can still have insurance of payment, certain payment from the local government as a fee, tipping fee, we call it tipping fee, or get fee for this management. So this is the first actually in Indonesia. So hopefully with this kind of scheme that can like a win-win solution for everyone. Otherwise, as you mentioned, that it's not really bankable first, and not really interest for the private sector to do invest in this kind of management. So I hope with this kind of models, if it is work here in Bali, then we also at the central government planning to have more facility, and especially on the strategic or the city where their capability to provide the land, and also capability to pay the certain amount of fee to the operator. So that's what we have done here in Indonesia so far. Thank you, Bu. Because the guarantee only 20 years of feedstock, and also certain amount of fees to be paid per ton of waste from the local government. That's the guarantee they have.
Sorry, if I may, what is the guarantee? Because from an investor's point of view, right? So you give me a guarantee for 20 years of the feedstock. You also give me a guarantee that I would be paid a certain tipping fees, no, to receive the waste. What if the local government does not pay me?
That is the contract, long-term contract.
It's a long-term contract.
Yes.
Okay.
And they will have waste feedstock. I mean, they have no choice. There's some other operators or facilities.
Yeah, because this is a problem with local government units. I'm not saying that this always happens, but sometimes somebody approaches and is closer to the new mayor. You see, when you look at a 20-year period, you're cutting across different political scenarios. You will just have to pray that the chief executive officer stays there for the next 20 years if the law allows it, right? So those are some of the challenges. And if there is any shift or change in government. That's why my question is about the sovereign guarantee, because the sovereign guarantee ensures that the investor is paid and it opens up the doors. I don't know if that becomes attractive to an investor, even if you offer to put up the infrastructure and I spend for the facility. You know, I hope there would be takers, and we will talk to those funders there so that we can get them to invest also in our countries.
Okay, we already started discussion, so I allow them to start the discussion.
One more thing. In terms of guarantee, the government, central government, or we can say government, also facilitate to uptake the waste product out of that, the output. Let's say we can uptake it in and send it to the cement industry, for example, for the RDF and fertilizer, for example, if it is in terms of composting. So that's the role that taken by all the parties.
Okay, as we already started discussion for all the panelists, is there any comments, additional points? Yeah, silakan.
I think
Sorry.
I think
Silakan Pak Murad.
makasih. I think that is a good model where, I mean, you're not only going into managing waste, but you are creating value out of the whole ecosystem. The question is not for the panelists, but now the question is for, well, the donors. Does this bankable? Does this have any investment value? If countries can come up with this sort of model, how can we access to finance? Because waste management per se, as mentioned, or as we know, is not bankable, you know. So if we can come up with a business to it, is there any appetite from investors to invest? And can we then access to financing? Just to get some discussion on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ali Murad. I would like to call upon my friend from GIZ, Bu Rosi. Can you address the questions? And then Miss Fink. Sorry, I know you so.
Yes. Well, I'm not from GIZ. The GIZ colleagues here are leaving. I'm from KfW. Well, actually, I kind of expect that ADB could answer the question. But then, like, maybe also just to share that actually KfW here in Indonesia, we in the recent years, we actually have financed an investment in solid waste infrastructure. So we actually provide a sovereign loan through the central government to construct for final waste disposal at TPA. And that's I'm trying to answer the question in based on our experience is that it is possible, but certainly, well, there are still risks that we always have to calculate. And there are also some we call it like accompanying measures in which that we also provide technical assistance in order to make sure that the ecosystem of the solid waste infrastructure work. So part of it, for example, mentioned about tipping fee. We are also talking about how the local government could have the capacity to allocate budget in order for the solid waste infrastructure to run sustainably. And that's, we have to calculate. So I'm also trying to address the concern about why the preparation is always very long in the beginning, because we always have to assess what are the risks in order for this infrastructure to be constructed timely in a certain quality, but at the same time it will be operated with a certain capacity, and also with that there is the very clear role among the central government and local government. And so that's still possible. And of course that the financing is because it's through the central government that there is a sovereign guarantee. Yes, and that's actually the way that for us, like in the bilateral development partners, the bilateral bank work. And maybe also just to touch a bit about the interest rate. When it comes to bilateral bank like us, we only receive mandate by the government of Germany. So because we mobilize capital from the market, and because our rating, we can mobilize capital in a very competitive rate. And at the same time, if the purpose of the project serves the mandate of the government of Germany when it comes to the international cooperation, we can also access the fund coming from the government of Germany. And we blend that fund, so we could come with what they call the reduced interest financing. So it could also lower the interest, so long as the purpose of the project serves what we were mandated. So for example, for now, our mandate is for the climate related program. So long as the program have certain indicators or objective that relevant to the climate adaptation and mitigation, then we can actually access that government of Germany budget to lower the interest. So there are certain kind of differences when we are talking about bilateral bank and also multilateral development bank. I hope that answers. I'm a bit unprepared for addressing
There
the
is a
question.
hope. It's yes, it's probably bankable if by definition, if the GIs that already have for the landfill side, now the final processing type now becoming the MRL. So it's the same way of thinking. Thank you, Bu Rosi. I would also call Ms. Ping if you like to address the questions, because it's an important one. Perhaps they want to do the same thing for the Malaysia and in the Philippines.
Yes, it's a very interesting discussion. And yes, send it in. This relates to, I sort of touched on it about the blended financing, and what you're talking about here is, an excellent example of how you can bring in the strengths of different partners to make those investments. And the example that you're talking about in Bali, our friend in Philippines kept asking, but where's the guarantee? Where's the guarantee? And it's worked into the contract. So there's the offtake arrangement, there's the 20-year contract, but there are additional guarantees that could be thought about, right? The sovereign guarantee. There could even be a guarantee of the guarantee by international financial lenders, particularly if you're looking at a cluster of different investments. So you can imagine a kind of tiered, like the first lot, they just need a guarantee because it's a fairly safe bet. But then once you start going to tier 2, maybe you need this kind of gap financing. So you blend in your grant financing so to cover that viability gap, or this idea of patient capital and so on. And then beyond that, I'm not sure, but 2 tiers is probably a good start for now. So I think it's very interesting, and I'd love to explore that further.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ping. I think it's wrap up our discussions. There are some common challenges. First, I would like to quote from Cambodia that, of course, lack of finding in their plastic pollutions, combating plastic pollutions for all the regions, and how to piping the scale from macro to micro, especially in Malaysia. You also have that, still have that challenges, the feedstock guarantee, the market guarantee, and the enabler point, the important part that how we can get the sovereign guarantee for almost forever. And of course, all the discussion is mainly part of the how to reduce the interest rate, but we already have the solution. One of it becoming, as long as there is an indicator, a performance indicator that already achieved and agreed, then perhaps the tax, the interest rate could be reduced a little bit according to GIZ. Okay. Yes, I think we ran out of the time. We already like 20 minutes late. So thank you for all the panelists. It's a very interesting and challenges discussion. Hope we can have a take point at home and then think about it and explore more. Thank you. And I return and over to you, Ms.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Amanda. Very, very lively and and able moderation, and thank you for all the speakers. We now have a very short closing session, and I would like to invite Pak Rofi to start to make the closing remarks.
Thank you, Weza. So it is unfortunate for me to give a closing remark. If I would really hear more in discussion actually rather than closing. So but again, eventually we need to come to an end of everything. So Ms. Mathilde Masnad, the Deputy Director OECD, and also all the team from OECD and all my colleagues, representative from ASEAN countries, our strategic partners. Here we have Danish government from embassy, and also World Bank, ADB, KfW, and area, and so many others. I couldn't mention one. And of course, all the participants on this third regional ocean policy dialogue, both joining online and offline here in Bali. So again, good afternoon and good morning to everyone. First, let me thanks to all distinguished colleagues here that's still active and stay still and active in our lively discussion until today. And I would also like to express my gratitude to the OECD, of course, and COPSI and UNEP and all facilitating members here that joining us. And within these 2 days dialogue, I think we have shared valuable information and lovely discussion on how each country deals with their plastic waste problem, with a view to mitigate potential leakage and into the environment and seek the opportunity to work collaboratively in the future. As I can recall from the first day, data collection, quality methods, and is play a pivotal role to give a clear picture on how we should intervene with coherent policies, strategies, program, and activities at various levels. I took note that this issue come as a challenge to most of ASEAN countries. Various challenges related to data quality and monitoring system that can accommodate the entire Southeast Asian region that are next discussion that we need to agree on so that the data can be used to consistent and reliable and comparable. So I think that's one point that I can sure that we are agree on. We have also learned the experience from local activists from each country representative in carrying out waste management as form of policy implementation and action plans that have been made by the government of each countries. Some of it are still need a clear regulation, of course, but we have done something. We have also heard how international organizations such as WWF, Area, Philippines, PARM, FERA, Second Muse, ADB, World Bank, and other initiatives that has been working to support us in dealing with plastic pollution issue at various innovative ways, including financing part that unfortunately we need to cut the discussion. At the broader level, we need also to make common understanding on how to move forward together as Asian region community, considering international developing agenda in tackling plastic pollution, with a view to come up with ideas on collaborative action implemented at regional levels, including global levels that have been discussing under DINC. I once again would like to thank OECD, OPSI, UNEP, and other developing partners for your cooperation in assisting us here in this meeting, and I hope we could enhance this collaboration to follow up our discussion into more concrete action that we can implement together. Lastly, don't forget to enjoy Bali in the rest of your time here. I know some of you will be leaving this evening. Some of you still have 1 or 2 days here. And I invite also, if it is interested for you, to observe also some initiatives on plastic waste management that have been developing here in Bali. So I will be here until tomorrow. If you can have an interest to see that, what probably our colleagues can accommodate it to bring you there. So that's all. Thank you very much. Terima kasih, and see you again in the next meeting. Thank you very much.
And the next speaker is UN COPSI. Natalie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I think Pak Rofi has really summed up what we've talked about, so I don't have to say much more. Thank you so much. Personally, I've learned a lot over these past 2 days, and it was really great to see the very different type of stakeholders in the room as well, and the different types of information that was shared. I think, we can see that there's a lot already going on in this region. So anybody who says this is where the problem is, I don't think that that's really the right way to look at it. There's so much willingness, there's so much interest. And I do hope that, we can shift the narrative towards more, there's such potential for scalable action in this region. And there's an appetite for investment. And there is, an appetite for collaboration and for action. So I do hope that we can show that at the global stage as well, and that we can continue this conversation. And we did see, an interest in making data more comparable and transparent so we can show what's happening on the ground so that we can have evidence-based action. We heard that, we want to make policies more coherent, not only within countries and horizontally and vertically, but also in the region and connecting to a global agreement and seeing that bigger picture. And I also thought these discussions on financing were so interesting, about how can we access this finance for infrastructure as well? How can we create innovative finance mechanisms in partnership with different institutions? So, there's a lot of great stuff here, I think, that we can build on. And we've come a long way over the past couple of years, from even just, for this third dialogue is already so much, it's developed so much further than discussions from the first dialogue. So I see this as a positive. Yes, plastic pollution is a huge challenge, but I think we're on the right track. So thank you to everyone for joining online and for joining in person. And thank you to everyone for your brilliant contributions and the fantastic discussions. And I do hope that we can continue that discussion. And please feel free to reach out to any of us. And we're very happy to share and work with you on the resources that were introduced here as well. And we hope to see you all again soon and to continue working with you. So thank you very much.
And the last speaker is Mathilde Menard from OECD.
Thank you. So I would like to first thank our Indonesian co-host. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks for the very good arrangements. I would like to thank our co-organizers, COPSI and UNEP. It has been a pleasure working with you, and we see the results. So, and thank all of you, the speakers, the moderators, and all the participants for your very active participation. That's what we wanted to get to, having a real conversation on important topics, from the data challenge to policy coherence, regional coordination, and last but not least, financing. So I think it's a very fruitful discussion that we have had since yesterday. And at the OECD, we are really looking forward to continuing this conversation and continuing working with all of you. So let me highlight a few next steps from our side. First, regarding the regional plastic outlook for Southeast Asia, we will follow up with the countries on the preparation of this regional outlook. And we will also invite the Southeast Asia country representatives to participate in our OECD meetings where we will be discussing this report. We would like also to get your feedbacks from the participants at this workshop, all of you, on the updated Southeast Asia country notes on marine plastic pollution. We will share them with you very soon, and we would look forward especially for your comments on the policy coherence metrics and on the donor coordination table. So that's another point that is important for us to advance our work. And we'll continue to seek synergies with all the other actors in this region and on your work on financing, to develop some guidance, to have capacity building events, etc. So we'll contact you following up on this discussion to see what we can do together. So once again, thank to all of you, and let's continue this conversation. And I pass the floor back to Eya.
Okay.
And thanks to the team first,
Yeah.
to
No,
Eya
in
and
fact,
DC.
yeah. Yeah. No, I wanted to make 2 points. One more practical, just to say that we will put all the PowerPoint presentations on site on our event webpage. So please let us know if you don't want us to put it. So we won't do that. And then the second point, I wanted exactly to thank Pakrofi's team. I need to check the names because who has been supporting the meeting here and very excellent support. This is Magna, Sandy, Ananda, Adifa, and also the technical staff who is there to make it possible to make the Zoom connection with the rest of the world. Thank you. And I can't forget my team who is there in Paris. Some of them woke up very early to be able to connect. So Dimitra and Deborah. And last but not least, BC, who is there, who everybody knows. He has been the main person organizing this event, working on the event for 3 months now, and I think he has contacted all of you and all the participants also online. So thank you very much, BC, and thank you, and safe journey home, and good evening and good afternoon to all the others online. Thank you.